So I'll do this speech in English. And I want to start by saying that for the past 14 years, I spent doing magic, as you saw in the video. And when people hear magic, they think, cheater, trickster, where's my wallet? But just so that we're on the same page, I'm going to explain to you what a cheater does and what a trickster does. Everybody do this. Watch this. Everybody do this. Everybody's going to put their hands out like this. Even you, sir, with the glasses. Nice. Perfect. There you go. Hands out like this. Make sure your thumbs are up. Amazing. Take your right hand. Your other right hand, sir. Your other. Good. Yeah. Take your right hand, put it over your left hand. Amazing. Take your thumbs, put them face down. Good. And hold on tight, make sure your thumbs are facing downwards. And on the count of 3, you're going to do what I do. Sir, you have to make sure your thumbs, there you go. Your thumbs do have to be face down for this to work. Don't do anything without me. On the count of 3, you do what I do. 1, 2, 3. No, I'm kidding. You're in your seats. You can't do it. Watch this, but for real now. On the count of 3, you do what I do. 1, 2, 3. E. Yeah, you weren't able to do it? Oh, wait. That's the trick. That's it. No, wait. I'll teach you. Everybody, hands out like this. I'm not a trickster. I'll teach you. Hands out like this. Good. It's all in your head, right? So you just have to imagine that your hands are magnets. So when I say magnets, you put your hands together. Magnets. I give you the power to separate. Separate. Magnets. Separate. Magnets. Separate. Magnets. Thank you. That's cheating. Trick cheating. And it was magic that brought me to this beautiful country with beautiful culture about 5 years ago. It was magic that brought me here. But it was also an obsession with something. It was an obsession with this question that just wouldn't leave my mind. And the question was very simple. It was, why do kids all over the world join violent extremist groups? And not just necessarily gangs. We're talking to the Taliban. We're talking Bloods, Crips in the States. We're also talking, let's see if this works here. Oh, it's over there. That's not magic. Perfect. Why do kids join these violent extreme groups like MS-13, the Bloods, the Crips, terrorist groups like Taliban? Why? Knowing that it's going to end in death or that it's going to end with them being in jail. Why do they join? And they start really young, right? We notice that they're starting now even younger. Maybe it was 15, now it's 12 years old, now it's 9 years old. They're joining violent extremist groups on all sides, both left and right. And here in this country, of course, you guys have the Mara Salvatrucha, yeah? MS-13. And that was, it just boggled my mind how kids could join a gang like MS-13, knowing that the end product could be death. But instead of pushing it away, I decided to study it. So I came here. And my hypothesis was this. This is what I thought. Okay, the kids are all being forced to join. That's why they're joining. There's gangs, they're grabbing all these kids and they're forcing them to join. My second hypothesis was kids just don't know. They just don't know the consequences of joining one of these extremist groups. Why are they joining? Easy. They want protection. That made sense. They wanted protection. The second one was even simpler. They just wanted to get money. Yeah? They wanted protection, they wanted to get money. And these are all true reasons of why people join gangs, why people join extremist violent groups. But I found something else. I just found that, yes, there was a certain amount of kids that were being forced, kids that just didn't know. There were kids that went in it for protection. They were scared. There were kids that were doing it for money. But my study, which has been, like I said, for the past 5 years, there was also another part. Part of my study was that I was also a gang member, part of the New York, not going to name the gang, but I was part of a New York gang for 3 years. The other is that I joined an organization that's called AV, which stands for, it's an acronym for Against Violent Extremism, which is a unique, powerful new global force in the ongoing struggle to tackle violent extremism. It was seeded by Google in 2011, where we united both formers and past extremists or former extremists of any violence. So we had guys from the guerrillas in Colombia, we had guys that were in religious wars, and we asked, why do you join? And there was a common thread. They said, because it gives us a purpose. It gives us significance. That's why I joined. At 10 years old, that's the reason that I was interested. But I wasn't just interested. I was obsessed. I idolized the gangs. And with my study with my kids that I've been training for the past 5 years, that's what they do. They throw up gang signs without even knowing what it means. How do you stop an organization that has kids faking to be in the gang? How do you stop the Taliban that are having young kids in Iraq or in Pakistan faking or walking around with fake guns? How do you do that? How do you beat that? You first begin to understand them. So like I said before, we start to understand that they give you purpose, they give you significance. But then you ask, well, that's easy. Why don't they do something else? Why don't they go play soccer? That gives you significance, that gives you purpose. One thing that the gangs and these extremist groups have been able to do very well is something that I call branding. Very similar as McDonald's does and Wendy's does. Now in a second, I'm going to ask you guys to raise your hand if you've ever heard of Magicians Without Borders. Raise your hand. Exactly. Watch this. How many of you guys have ever heard of MS-13? MS-13, yeah? Almost everybody. How strong is that brand compared to my NGO that I work with? If I were to name another one, right? The YMCA. Raise your hand if you know the YMCA. Some of you guys do. Raise your hand if you know 18th Street. Yeah? Almost everybody. So how do you start such a strong brand? Well, I started to study successful businesses, right? There's a great book by Jim Collins called Good to Great, where he studies these great companies that have been on the way up. Doesn't matter if there was a recession, if people weren't buying, they were always on their way up. And you know what they found? Was that they had the right people indoors. They had the right people in the company that wanted the company to grow beyond money. Now you have to listen to what I just said. You have the right people indoors. How do you stop an organization that has a group of people that want to die for the mission? You can't stop that. It's on the way up. And you may not be able to stop that, but you can give options. And one thing that may seem obvious, but it's not so obvious, is why don't they do something else? Because they don't have other things to do. One of the things that I found working with the kids was they don't have that. Number one, they definitely don't have something that's just as popular as the gangs, right? So if I come with my organization, I say, join my organization. Some of them do. Some of them say, why join yours? I can be part of the almighty MS-13. Why would you join my small little organization? So as an organization, as people, when we're starting these groups, we want to start thinking about branding. We want to grow. Because the gangs, they don't just start somewhere, right? MS-13 didn't start in this country. They started in LA, right? In LA. And then they brought it here. That's franchising. That's what Wendy's did in this country. They start in the US and they come here, but they do something very sneaky. I thought it was very funny. I was over at Wendy's the other day, and I saw that 1 to 5, they have 10 items on the menu. 1 to 5, standard, cheeseburger, french fries. 5 to 10, pupusas, eggs. I was like, what is this? This is Wendy's. We don't sell pupusas here. But they were very smart, right? What did? They gave them a system that worked. They said, look, don't touch the 1 to 5. 5 to 10, make it yours. You make it grow. And then I walk away. Yeah? So now you have one Wendy's, you have two Wendy's, and it's local. It runs on a micro level. So what I'm saying is, as a company, I'm sorry, not as a company, but as an NGO organization, what we've decided to do was start something that, number one, adds purpose. So there are other organizations that are doing this. But secondly, we're going to start franchising, right? Because we want to make sure that the kids in El Salvador feel that they're part of something big. So just when they say, yeah, I'm part of the XNX gang, and they're in New York, and they're in Europe, and they're in Africa, I want them to say the same thing about us. So how do we do that? We train the locals. So this is what I'm doing. I'm copying their operational system. I'm copying the way they have a culture fit. How do they have a cultural fit? They make sure the right people are in by having a jump-in, right? Have you guys ever heard of a jump-in? That's the process that most gangs will use to allow somebody to get in, to make sure you're tough enough, or to make sure that you show that you want to be part of it. Now, how do you join mine? You just have to dedicate yourself. You just have to give yourself. You don't have to be jumped in. You have to give your heart. I also copy their ethos. A lot of these gangs, believe it or not, have rules. Don't rob your other gang member, but you can rob others. Those are rules, and you have to follow them. The other one is the franchising, the moving on to other places. More than money, protection, and even look cool, they just want to be part of something. We have to remember this. That's all they want. In Iraq, in New York, everybody just wants to be part of something. This is my solution. These kids that you're looking on here, Magicians Without Borders has been working with them for the past 8 years. I've been working with them personally for the past 5 years here locally in San Salvador. We got them really small. We began to teach them magic. Why magic? At the beginning I said that I'm a magician. I found that the tool that I use is that I tell stories with magic. And in a second you'll see what I mean. We've taken these six kids and we began to teach them how to teach how we taught them. So we teach them what we taught them. Yeah? And how we taught them. So now, here is the new generation. These are your future gang members. These are your future Magician Without Borders magicians. And then what do we feed to them? To go out and do the same. Yeah? And we're doing this in India. We're going to open up another one in Colombia. We already have the one in the United States. We're looking to spread out to Brazil and have these kids feel that they're part of something bigger and attach that big purpose. Her sister, Astrid, we got almost at her age. This is the second generation. And the first time that I came, she was just so full of life. She just seemed, so happy to be doing what we were teaching her that I didn't know her circumstances. This girl, Astrid, her sister. So we taught her magic. We spent a week with her. And then I went back to the U.S. I come back. I find out that Astrid is no longer allowed to come back. We figure out why. And we come to find out that her neighborhood, Camones in Santa Ana, is very dangerous. So dangerous, not even the organization is allowed to go in and rescue her. I'm happy to tell you guys that this time around, we've now made our group stronger and known in this Camones area. And now we've taken Astrid and we've given her other kids. And now they're going into this area, Camones again, and we're starting to teach again. So now that her sister doesn't have to experience that, yeah? Her friends are now part of a magician group. She feels part of something. It no longer becomes as dangerous. Sure, there still is dangerous levels, but it doesn't become as dangerous. She feels that she's part of a group. So when they say, where are you from? I'm part of the magician group. Hi. And we're in Colombia and we're this. And we're for peace. We're not for fighting. And I don't mean when I say we're a gang, we're not into violence. We're into peace. But we are a brotherhood or a sisterhood in her case. So, what is it that I do? What is it that I'm teaching them? What's my thing? Yeah? So if the essence of it is brotherhood, the diamond that I give is that I teach these kids to tell their stories through magic. See, because magic for me is just a visual art. I don't mean to trick you, I really meant that. And I don't mean to cheat you. And in a second I'll do something that's liberated me. As I said before, I was also part of a gang and experienced a lot of violence. And I didn't think anybody cared until I started putting it into my magic. You see, people wanted to see tricks. And I would sneak in my story. But then once I started to tell my story, I felt empowered. People wanted to listen to me. People wanted to hear me. And it liberated all this pain. Big story with this one of our other alumni. Started at 8 years old, he's 12 years old now. Took this $5 magic trick. You can buy it any magic store, very cheap. If magicians were to see it, that's a beginner's trick. And this little boy took this little vase, if you can imagine it. And the little vase opened up with the top, had the bottom, and it had a little ball inside. It's a very famous trick. The ball gets placed into the pocket. You cap the vase, snap your fingers, the ball appears back inside. Very simple. But he saw it as something else. So he tells this story that he was walking down the street one day, and he saw this kid crying right on the side of the street. He said, "Why are you crying?" The kid said, "I don't want to talk about it." He goes, "Come on, man, just talk to me. Why are you crying?" And the kid stands up, says, "My mom just committed suicide. The thing that I love the most in this world just committed suicide." And William, the magician, says, "I got it. I got to show you this thing." And he pulls out his little vase with the little ball. He says, "These North Americans came and they taught me this." He goes, imagine this is your body, the vase. And the little ball, imagine that's your heart. And he places the ball into his hand. And the little boy stops him and says, "You don't get it. I don't have a heart. I've lost everything." Little Zumbita opens his hand and the ball is gone. Magic trick. True story. Zumbita looks back at him. He says, No, what you need to do, he caps the vase, showing it empty again. He caps it. He says, you have to have love. You have to have magic. You have to believe in yourself. And then he uncaps it. Your heart is back. And the little ball comes back. At the end, he leaves it on the table uncapped, and he takes a step back. And Zubita says, after the applause, he says, the reason I know this story of this kid so well was that little kid that lost his mom was me. And he caps it. And tears are coming down my eyes. I'm proud to say that Zumbita in about a week is going for the first time to the United States to perform in front of thousands of people. This is what we want to do worldwide. We want to start this brotherhood of magicians, of soccer players, of anything. We just want to start a brotherhood and we want to brand it, yeah? And now I leave you with my story. You know, I didn't always do this. This being on stage, this putting on a performance, this acting like I'm some brave type of person. So I tear back the curtain on my grand illusion as I take you inside the mind of an 8-year-old kid raised in his grandmother's Brooklyn basement by a single father working extra hours to keep up with payments, trying to raise him. You know, I remember staying up real late, alone, waiting for Papi to come home, watching the snow grow outside of my basement window. That's how I used to make the time go. And I remember it was getting closer to Christmas. And my only wishes was for Papi to look at what I scribbled down on my wish list. A magic book. When I opened it, excitement swirled through my body and ignited a fire inside of me. And I started to improvise with whatever I could find. I started practicing, imagining what would it feel like to be performing in front of thousands of people, screaming my name, having my face show up all over the place. TV, magazines, even newspaper articles. Yo, just to have that feeling be part of you, that, to me, was a dream. But as I got older, I allowed people to take what I believe, my dream, away. Their words played over and over like a bad dream stuck on replay. Their words and phrases of you'll never make it penetrated the pure essence of my existence. But it was no hard physics. I realized real quick that this magic thing just wasn't cutting it. Because the people I was hanging with, they just wasn't having it. So I turned to the street corners in search of havoc and in search of a family. I joined a gang and I lived their reality. A reality I know too well. Like 40 stitches on my head. 3 friends dead. 2 choices. Jail or death. And one 16-year-old kid lying in a hospital bed alone. With no more gang to call home. When I came out of the hospital, I allowed myself to start believing in a new life. And instead of wounds, I found myself with wants. And suddenly, I found myself performing in front of these 10 kids, these 10-year-olds. And I felt afraid of these 5-year-olds, while several months back, I was fighting 35-year-olds. But it was in these kids, their willingness to believe in me, the strength that they gave me. They gave me my life back. So today I got a gift for you. I ask you to put aside what you think you know to be true. Put it aside and just allow yourselves to believe and feel the magic. The magic of transformation, like taking something empty and making it full again. And I found that you could take a little bit of that magic, of that snow, and you can take that, and you could take that through the world.